What's up guys, it's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with another video in my Warframe free-to-play series. And today we are actually going to be doing our Mastery Rank 3 test. And we're also going to be talking about a few things that we need to start looking at in terms of our progression through the game. At this point we are working on Mercury. We're still pretty early on in our playthrough. But we have some decisions to make as we have managed to rank up some of our weapons. We're going to talk about what we want to do in terms of our next weapon choice, since that's going to carry us pretty far through the star chart. And we're going to talk about some different ways to get those weapons. And we're also going to take a look at choosing your first Syndicate today. So, might be kind of a long video, but this is not going to be a very action-oriented video. This is more going to be a kind of an explanation and going over things, trying to give you guys some pointers for the decisions you're going to want to make at this point in your playthrough. So we're going to go ahead and get started with just going through the Mastery Rank test. This is to go from Mastery Rank 2 to 3. This is not a very difficult test here, but you can see when we do complete this test, we'll get a plus 1,000 daily standing limit, plus 50 void trace storage, and plus 1 minimum mod capacity. So that's pretty cool. So yes, we are ready to become Gold Initiate. I think this was a fairly simple test. I don't really remember it too well, but these first early tests really aren't that difficult. Just using melee. Okay, this shouldn't be too terribly hard then. Pretty easy test here. Get some Corpus guys who are going to go down pretty quickly. So we have to kill 5 enemies this time. Again, nothing too complicated, kind of like our Mastery Rank 2 test. This is pretty easy. There's probably going to be one wave left. Remember, you can use all your different melee abilities here. We don't have any combo melee stuff yet because we haven't actually been able to get any mods for our melee weapons that allow us to use combos very effectively, but still, very easy test. You should be able to get this done pretty quickly. And Mastery Rank 3, it seems kind of low, but it's actually very important to reach Mastery Rank 3 because this actually opens up a lot of options for you in the game in terms of some weapons that you can get and in terms of a few other things. And we're going to take a look at that here as soon as we get through this screen. I guess I do need to click continue, don't I? I thought it automatically took me back, but I guess not. Alright, so we're back on our ship. Yes, we do have a new quest that we can do. Now, we have a new option on the ship now. You can actually go in and decide to join a syndicate. So we're going to take a look at this. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on here, but I'm going to briefly go over what we can do here. I've done a separate video on joining a syndicate, like a longer length video, which I'll link in the description so you guys can check that out. But you basically have the choice of Steel Meridian, Arbiters of Hexus, Cephalon Suda, the Parent Sequence, Red Veil, and New Loka. And you can read each description there if you want to spend some time looking at that, but let's just go into New Loka, for example. And you can kind of see how this works. You have different ranks. You can gain in the syndicate, which you essentially get by doing missions and acquiring experience when you start wearing their sigil. And you can see on the right here, they all have alignments. So this syndicate is enemies of Cephalon Suda. They're opposed to Steel Meridian, and they're allied with the Parent Sequence. Now, this allied part is very important because what this allied means is when you do missions for your syndicate, you will not only gain experience for your syndicate, you can also gain it with your allied syndicate, which means you can rank up 2 or more of these at the same time, which is pretty cool because that gives you a lot more items and mods and things you can choose from once you start getting up into the higher ranks. Now, you can also get a negative rank with these syndicates. So, like your enemy and opposed, you will acquire negative experience with them. And you can see here when you're condemned by this, you get hunted by Ancient Healer Xmas squads. When you get exiled, you get hunted by Ancient Healer Xmas platoons. What will normally happen here is you'll be in the middle of a mission, the screen will start to flash red, and all of a sudden you'll be surrounded by a massive group of, like, usually level 25 to 30 enemies, which early in the game can be very difficult to deal with. So you want to be careful early on when you're in a syndicate that you're not getting too much negative experience with some of the syndicates because they can really make your life hard when they send their squad to kill you in the middle of a mission, especially if you're trying to do an important mission. Now there's an initiation cost for each syndicate. It's going to vary on what you have to do. You can see for New Loco we would need 1,000 ferrite and 10,000 credits. That's pretty easy to gain. Most of these syndicates are going to have pretty easy first initiation items. You can see here Red Veil's 500 allied plate, 10,000 credits. Now these will go up in scale as you try to go through each rank. But right now we pretty much can join any of these, I believe, that we wanted to. So for example, like your second initiation is going to cost a significant more amount of credits and a lot more of a secondary item. When you get to the higher ranks, for example, Maximum and Crusader, on my other account right now I have both Red Veil and Steel Meridian at the point where I could level them up to the max. The problem is, at the max rank you actually have to turn in a crafted prime part in addition to your credits. So it's like 500,000 credits, and I think a Saren Prime systems or your optics, which some of those prime parts are pretty rare, so it may take you a while to farm that up and get to that rank. But keep that in mind, as you level up these syndicates, you are going to have harder and harder requirements to get to each stage. So we're going to choose our syndicate today. Now this is up to you guys. You can make your choice based on whatever you want. I'm going to kind of give some pointers here. One of the things you do want to consider with these syndicates is, number one, do they have good weapons? And number two, do they have good mods for your Warframe? Now we're kind of early on here, so we only have Excalibur right now. We're probably going to have Rhino a little bit later, and we have a couple other frames like Nyx and Oberon will be able to farm fairly easily through the beginning of the star chart. We're most likely going to farm Valkyrie around Jupiter. She's a very important frame we're going to want to get. So you're going to want to keep this in mind when you're looking through each syndicate, because they're going to have certain mods for those Warframes, and they're also going to have different weapons. This may take me a little bit, but I'm going to kind of just give a brief glimpse here. If you go to the offerings tab for each syndicate, it's going to show you the items that you can purchase eventually when you start earning your syndicate experience. You can actually cash in that experience to buy items from the syndicate, and you'll also get a free item each time you rank up. It'll give you a choice. You can pick from one of these items. So you can see here there's all kinds of different stuff. They have weapon parts. These are mostly for archwing weapons. You're going to have sigils that you can wear, which will increase your experience gain. One of the more important ones are these squad health restore and squad blueprints in general. These allow you to craft energy and health and ammo restoration items you can drop in missions for your team. They also have weapon-specific syndicate mods. So for here, you have one for the Heck, the dual cleavers, and the miter, and also for the Sobek. The Sobek and the Heck are two of the more powerful weapons in the game. We're going to be talking about those later on, where these are very, very good weapons. And these basically give you bonuses plus the Justice proc, which each syndicate has a special proc that occurs when you use their weapon. There's a syndicate meter in the bottom right that builds up as you get kills, and when that syndicate meter reaches max, it unleashes a area of effect. It can be blast damage or viral damage, or there's all kinds of different ones. So you want to kind of take a look at that and decide when you're making your weapon builds there. But you can see these are weapon specific, so they can only be used on those weapons. And as you get down here, you can also see that you have specific Warframe mods that you'll be able to get once you reach a certain level with the Syndicate. So what you want to do when you go through these Syndicates is look at your specific Warframe. For example, this Syndicate we have Excalibur mods, which we can use to augment Slash Dash or Radio Blind, take 300% more finisher damage. That is an incredibly good mod for Excalibur. Furious Javelin, each enemy hit with will increase Excalibur's melee damage by 5. You can see Excalibur is a heavy melee frame, but Exalted Brain's damage type changes depending on energy color and status chances increased by 50%. That's pretty cool. So there's some really good mods there for Excalibur, which we're going to want to take that into consideration, considering he's going to be our main frame we're using for a lot of this playthrough. Nova is a good frame we're going to want to try to get as well. Her boss, though, is a little bit annoying to farm, but she's definitely worth trying to get. Oberon is another frame we will most likely get at some point. He's not an amazing frame, but he's pretty good. You can see here they have Rhino. We'll be getting Rhino as well. There's several mods for Rhino. And then Saren, who's also a pretty good frame. So Steel Meridian's got some good mods for some Warframes that are pretty crucial to your progress through the star chart. And when you go on to their weapons, Steel Meridian is also one of the better syndicates because they have two of the more powerful syndicate weapons. They have the Vacor Merlock and the Vacor Heck, which is one of the best weapons in the game. These are mastery rank locked though, so you do have to keep that in mind. The syndicate primary weapons are going to be mastery rank locked to 12, so that's kind of a ways off for us. Still, the Vacor Heck is one of the most powerful guns in the game. That's something you want to consider when you're looking at these syndicates, is which ones have these weapons, which you're actually able to choose one of these for free when you hit that rank. The Vacor Merlock is really solid as well. Now you see this one's only mastery rank 6, so that's not too difficult to obtain, so we could always go for this for a secondary. Very good weapons here for Steel Meridian. So we'll jump out of them. We'll just very quickly look through some of these others. Arbiters of Hexus. You know, most of these are going to be the same. It's just going to be going through. And you can see this, for example, gives a Burst and Prime weapon-specific item. That's going to be a little bit more difficult to obtain, so you may want to keep that in mind when you go through here. We can look through and see if they have anything for our Warframes. And you can see they have the same exact mods that the other Syndicate had, so most of these are going to be duplicates, which is another thing to keep in mind. But again, you're going to want to look at the Syndicate that's going to have the most mods for your Warframes you're going to want to play. Nyx is a frame we'll acquire fairly easily as well. That's something to consider. She's a very good frame. But you can see here, not that many Warframes that really suit our mod choices for the frames I'm going to be looking for. You got the Telos Akbolto, the Boltace, and the Boltor. Not great weapons overall, not as good as what Steel Meridian has to offer. The Telos Boltor is pretty solid, but it's not much better than the main Boltor and the Boltor Prime, so I'm not really too interested in joining Arbiters of Hexus. Cephalon Pseudo we can take a look at real quick. And again, we're just going to quickly scroll through. Now you notice they all have different, like this one's got the Shield Restore. These blueprints are very important and very easy to get through the Syndicate, so that's something you want to look at too. We've got some weapons here that probably we're never going to use really, so we're going to skip through most of those. We've got Chroma. Chroma's a good frame. Frost is an excellent frame, and we definitely are going to want to try to acquire Frost at some point. He is very good for the end game. So some good mods for Frost there. Hydroid, Ivara, Limbo, Mirage. So not really any frames here that I'm going to be focusing on, except maybe Nova and Frost. So the Synod Gamma Core is a pretty solid weapon, but again, for me, just compared to so far, Steel Meridian seems to be the choice I'm going to lean towards, which is actually good in a way. I'll explain that in a moment when I get to Red Veil, because Red Veil is their allied syndicate, and they get a lot of good weapons in Red Veil as well. So let's look at the parent sequence real quick. We've got Squad Energy Restore, Acrid, Grinlock, Lanka, and Spectra. So again, not too many decent weapon mods there. Banshee, Chroma, Naros, Ivara, Mag, Necros. Mag and Necros are both pretty good, but I don't know. We won't be really focusing on getting them too much. Rhino again. Trinity is a very good frame if you can get a very good support frame. Now Valkyr. Valkyr is an excellent Warframe. We're definitely going to get her at some point. So that's something to consider. Their weapons aren't really that solid. So we're just going to jump out of here. So parent sequence, not exactly something we want to focus on right now. Now Red Veil is another very strong syndicate in terms of the weapons they have to offer. Something you want to kind of consider there as well. They have the Squad Ammo Restored Blueprint. We've got Dark Dagger, Embolist, Kunai, and Mire. The Mire and the Kunai are not great weapons, but with these syndicate mods, they are pretty good. You can see with the Mire especially, you get that toxin damage. And we can look here through their Warframes. They have Atlas, Ember. Ember's a good frame. Loki is an excellent frame. Mesa, Necros again. Saren, Titania, Volt, Zephyr. So not really too many frames we're going to be going for here, but they are Steel Meridian's allied syndicate, so they will be leveled up at the same time if we go that way. Now, the Ballistic and the Dark Dagger aren't amazing, but the best weapon here is going to be the Raktacernos. This is one of the most powerful weapons in the entire game of Warframe, so this is definitely something you want to consider if you're looking at joining a syndicate. Bow weapons may not be for you. You may be more of a rifle player. We'll get into bow weapons later on. But this is a very, very good weapon overall. And it's something to consider if you go with Steel Meridian, you'll be also leveling up Red Veil, so you'll have a shot at getting that as well. And finally, we have new Loka. We'll look at offerings here. And you've got the squad health restore, Pantera, Furus, Volcar, and Skana. Okay, so Skana and Furus are two weapons we're going to have that we already have. Actually, I have the Furus in the Foundry already created, and we have the Skana as well. So that's something to consider early on for your playthrough, but not a major thing. And we look through again the frames here that you can get. Mag, Nyx again, Oberon. You got Trinity. So a good mix of frame, and Valkyr. So we have a good mix of frames here we're going to be trying to actually acquire. That's something to consider. Their weapons, not great overall, although they do have the Sanctity Tigris, which again is one of the more powerful shotguns in this game. The Tigris is a 2-shot, double-barreled, side-by-side shotgun that does an incredible amount of damage. Look at that slash damage, 1,008. It's kind of an interesting weapon. You pull the trigger to fire one round, then you have to hold the trigger down and let it go to fire the second round, or you can just do one trigger, let go to fire a powerful 2-round burst. So this is a great weapon, and it's worth considering new Loka just for that as well. And then they're allied with the parent sequence. So quite honestly, for what we are looking at, I'm going to look through parent sequences, frame mods here. It looks like Steel Meridian, honestly, because they have the Excalibur mods we're going to be looking at, and they also have some of the really two of the more powerful weapons in the game, both secondary and primary, in the Vacor, Merlock, and the Hex. So I'm actually going to join Steel Meridian, which will give us Red Veil as our allied syndicate. Now again, you're free to choose whoever you want. Your Warframe choices may be a little different than mine in terms of doing the mods, but for our purposes in this playthrough, since we're going to be relying heavily on Excalibur for a lot of early play, we're going to go ahead and join this syndicate here. Pretty easy sacrifice the first time through. It'll ask you if you're sure. You're going to click OK. Alright, so we have earned the first sigil. And we have joined a syndicate, which is going to open up a lot of stuff for us now. So they'll come on and you'll get a little thing from... Okay. So now you can see we can't really get anything just yet, but when we get to our first rank, which is 5,000, we will level up to Brave, and then any of these things that require Brave, you'll be offered as a free item the first time you get them. So that's Syndicates in a nutshell real quick. Like I said, guys, there is going to be a longer video on Syndicates, more in-depth, down below in the description. But one thing that's very important, we're going to come back here to our arsenal. We're going to go to our appearance on Excalibur. And you want to go ahead and make sure you go to Regalia. And let's see, we've got our Mastery Sigil on the front. We have the Jackal Sigil on the back. So we're going to go to the back, and we're actually going to equip our Steel Meridian Sigil here. Now you have to have this sigil on your Warframe somewhere, or you will not gain experience for your syndicate. So keep that in mind. Make sure you equip that. I've seen a lot of people join a syndicate and then run through, and they're like, "Why am I not getting experience?" And they realize, "Oh crap, I didn't equip my sigil." All right, actually, I can stay in the arsenal for now. All right, so our next thing is, you can notice here I've already got Excalibur, the Braton, and the Skana at maximum rank of level 30, which is about as high as we're going to go with those. Mark 1 Kunai is at 25. I'm still working on that. So what we need to make a decision now with is what kind of weapons do we want to go with for our next weapon choice in terms of melee, our secondary, and our primary, because we do want to choose weapons here that are going to carry us pretty far in the star chart that we'll be able to maybe even use a Forma on and level up. So the first area I want to go to here is the Foundry. I'm going to go through here and show you some of what we have so far. Now, the most obvious choice here, it looks like I may have already crafted it. It's not here anymore. Okay. We'll go back to the arsenal in a second. Is going to be the Boltor, which we actually get that when we complete Venus. So that's something we're going to definitely consider. You notice here I have a couple other blueprints. Now, the Plasma Sword, this was from an alert on Earth, a level 5 to 7 alert, so this was really pretty easy to get. We can't build it just yet because we need an Auric Cell for that, which we should be able to get pretty soon. That's going to be a candidate for a new melee weapon, possibly. Most of this other stuff, these prime weapons, these are just kind of random drops from farming lower level prime. missions, and we're not going to be able to use those too much just yet. We have the axe stiletto, which this is a very, very good secondary weapon to have early in the game. We do need 2 gallium, which we can get from Mars, so this is a weapon we're going to definitely be looking at early on our playthrough. I'm going to show you how you can get that blueprint here in just a second. You do unfortunately have to be a member of a clan to get that. So if we go over to our arsenal, let's take a look at our primary weapons. You can see here we do already have the Boltor, which I crafted this in a video, an earlier video. The Boltor you get as a blueprint drop from Venus when you complete the Planet Junction. It's very easy to craft, and the Boltor is one of the better weapons actually in the game. The Boltor Prime is also a very good version of this. But we have that already crafted and ready to go. You should have that already made. This is probably the no-brainer choice to use going forward if you like the rifle. This is going to be a little bit of a different weapon as it is a projectile-based weapon. It shoots like little bolts, and they do have a slight arc to them. You have to kind of get used to aiming it. It's not quite a hit scan weapon like some of the assault rifles. But I'm most likely going to just go with the Boltor because we already have it. We crafted it. It means we don't have to spend any credits. We don't really have to make any effort to get that. In terms of our secondary, I also got a blueprint for the Furus fairly early on. This is not a great weapon. It's a machine pistol, and it's not amazing, but it will work for a little while. So I also may decide to just go with this one because it's already made, it's already crafted, it has a very low crafting cost. It's not something that really is going to cost us a lot to use. Melee weapon is going to be a little bit more different here because we do have the Skana Max, and the Skana is actually a fairly good melee weapon. There aren't really too many options available to us that are low cost. Most of these are going to cost platinum. I don't think you can really buy any other melee weapons for credits other than the Mark 1 bow, which, and actually I don't even know if you can purchase that for credits. Yeah, okay, you can. 15,000 credits for this, and it's really not worth spending. This could be a mastery fodder weapon later. Same thing for the Mark 1 Firax, but if you're really desperate, you have these 2 options that only cost 15,000 credits. I would not suggest either of these. Maybe later on in the game, if you need some mastery rank fodder, you can grab those real quick and level them up to 30, but otherwise, we're not going to really suggest either of those. So let's go back, and we're going to exit out here. I'm going to go to the star chart real quick and show you a few more options for melee weapons. As you can see here, we are working through Mercury right now. Now, when you do eventually get to Tolstage, Captain Vor is going to be the boss of Tolstage. He does drop a melee weapon blueprint, and parts to make it, which is called the Cronus. It's not a great melee weapon. The Skana is actually quite a bit better, but it is an option if you want to go that route. It's fairly easy to farm. You can farm that up in a couple of runs. Captain Vor is, as you'll see in a later video, is not a hard boss at all to beat in this early stage. So that's one option you have if you want to go that route and not really have to worry about spending a lot to get another melee weapon. If we go back up to Earth and we go to the Mars Junction, I think it's the Mars Junction that gives us, you can see there you will get a frag ore blueprint for completing the Mars Junction, which all we really have to do is complete the Once Awake quest, which is going to be pretty quick to complete. We'll get that done in a video very soon. And the frag ore is kind of a hammer you can smash people with. It's a very good melee weapon. It works very well with Rhino as well, who will be crafting pretty soon. So that's another option you have that you'll get fairly early on. So if you really have to, it's not a bad idea to just hang on to the Skana and use that for the time being, even though we won't be gaining any mastery rank because we're continuing to use it. Alright, so our next option for weapons, other than what we've already talked about, is to go into the market and take a look at the blueprints to see what's available. So we're going to go into primary weapons first of all. You see a lot of stuff is still mastery rank locked. Some of these weapons at 7 and 6 are going to be a little bit more powerful than what we can get now. But there's a lot of stuff right now that you can actually pick up that's pretty good. The Attica is kind of a fun weapon. It's a crossbow. You can't get a blueprint for this, unfortunately. You can look at the bore. This is a shotgun. And again, no blueprint for this. So that's kind of out. Boltor we already have. Like I said, we're most likely going to use this. Now, here is a very underrated gun, but a very solid gun, and it's the Bratton. Now, I know we just used the Mark 1 Bratton, but this does not have the Mark 1 on it. It's much more powerful. This is actually a very solid weapon. I have one of these on my other account with 4 Forma in it that can actually run through in-game content pretty easily. And you can see there, the nice thing is it's only 25,000 credits. So if you don't want to go with the Boltor, this is a very reliable weapon. It's very solid. You're probably already used to using it from having the Mark 1 Bratton. So this is definitely a good choice if you want to go a different route than the Boltor and you want to go with more of an easier to aim weapon, whereas with the Boltor you have a little bit of an arc on it. I would definitely suggest getting the normal Bratton because, again, this costs 25,000 credits. You get the weapon right away. You don't have any crafting time or crafting cost to worry about, so there is that to consider. The bursting is not bad. Take a look at the blueprint here. You see we do need nanospores, which we don't have access to right away, so that's not really an option at this point. The Cernos, the Convectrix, the Daiku, I'm not going to suggest really any of these for newer players and early level. The Grakata is interesting. We could build this right now if we wanted to. This is a very high fire rate. Recoil is a bit of an issue on this gun, but it can dump a lot of ammunition onto targets really quickly and kill very fast, but it runs out of ammo pretty quickly, and also with that recoil, it's not going to be a very forgiving weapon. But something to consider if you're a fan of more run and gun, higher fire rate weapon that could work for you. The Harpack shoots harpoons, basically harpoons enemy into the walls. You can see there, we need way too much stuff to craft that, so we're not going to even consider that one there. The Hind is pretty solid. It's a pretty accurate weapon. The blueprint is very expensive. You can see, though, we could actually build this right now, but 40,000 credits plus the build cost of this is going to put that a little bit out of reach for me right now. I wouldn't suggest the Hind right away, especially when we have the Boltor already done and ready. Now, one weapon I would definitely consider is the Karak. This is a very solid assault rifle. You can see there, it's got a very high impact. Status change is not great, but it is kind of expensive. We could also build this. Again, this is a weapon we could build. It's a pretty decent overall assault rifle we could use throughout. But again, some of the things here are that we already have the Boltor done. We have a Bratton we could buy for 25,000 credits, so that's really, why would we waste 40,000 credits and then crafting cost on some of these other weapons? But just looking through here, you've got the Mark 1 Strun, which you can buy for 15,000 credits. This is actually, even being a Mark 1, is surprisingly decent high damage weapon. You can see there 54 slash and 99 impact. Shotguns in Warframe just overall are really, really solid. While I don't suggest this as a weapon to carry you through the next few planets, if you are desperate, like I said earlier, you can drop 15,000 credits and get that. But again, that's probably just, we're going to mastery rank fodder. You have the Paris, which is a really good weapon if you're looking for a more accurate type of playstyle. But again, nanospores, plastids, that's going to kind of take us out of the running for that. You've got the normal Strun, which is a very powerful shotgun, but you can't get a blueprint for it. The Tetra, you've got the Vectis and the Volcar here. I don't think we could build any of these right yet. Yeah, you've got to have Oricon cells and nanospores. Vectis is a pretty good sniper rifle. The Volcar is an excellent sniper rifle, and we actually could build this once we get to Mars, so we may consider that at that point. Once we, actually not Mars, but Phobos, because we'll be able to farm plastids pretty easily there. And this is a fairly cheap blueprint, and the Volcar is a very good sniper rifle. It's more of a rapid fire, has a bigger magazine, doesn't do quite as much damage as the single shot sniper rifles, but it's very consistent damage it puts out. So, as I said, for now, guys, I would mainly limit your choices here to the Boltor and the Bratton. You could create the Karak as well. Those would be my top three here that I would suggest that you go for. Kind of give you a little bit of a choice. Assault rifles are just very reliable. Shotguns do a ton of damage, so those are also something you would want to look at. Now, when we get a little bit higher in mastery rank, we definitely want to. Actually, our next mastery rank is rank 4, and the Sobek is one of the more powerful. We could already build this right now, actually, but it's mastery locked. If we were at rank 4, I would probably buy this right now because this is one of the better guns in the game, in my opinion. It's a rapid fire shotgun. It has some pretty good mods out there for it, and it can become an absolute beast when you mod it correctly. The Heck is also mastery rank 4. This is another very good weapon that we can build right now, and we're definitely, when we get to mastery rank 4, these are going to be 2 weapons on our radar, especially since we're in Steel Meridian. We can get mods that go with both of those shotguns, so that's something else to consider. These are 2 of the more powerful weapons in the game that will be available at mastery rank 4, so keep that in mind. So that's just a quick look through the primary weapons. We will go into the secondary weapons right now. Again, we have the Mark 1 Kunai. We're not quite ready to get rid of those just yet, as we still have 5 more ranks to get with those, but we just want to take a look at some of the options that are available. You do have the Aclato, which are available for 25,000 credits. Not a great pistol. They are dual pistols, so you get a little bit more firepower with that, but not a great weapon overall. I don't suggest using those at all. You have the Ac Magnus, where you would need a normal Magnus to build those. The Ac Stiletto, which we do have a blueprint for these. You get that through the clan. These are really good because once you hit Master Rank 6, you can actually use them to build the Ac Samadhi, which are one of the more powerful secondary weapons in the entire game. You can use these throughout the end game. Once you get 3 or 4 forma in them, they are incredibly awesome. I have these on my main account. I use them quite a bit. So this is going to be a weapon we will go for, definitely, as soon as we can build these Ac Stilettos. Just looking through here, not really too many of these are really worth going after. And you can see we already have the Furus, so we might just use that. The Gamma Core is pretty cool. This is kind of a neat weapon. Blueprint is expensive, and you need plastids and argon crystals, which we don't quite have the ability to get those yet. So we're going to kind of pass on that. Now you can buy the Lato for 10,000 credits. This was available to you in the tutorial, but we picked the Mark 1 Kunai. If you went with the Lato, then you've probably already used this weapon. But again, if you're desperate, it's there, it's available. It's not super good, but that brings me to the Lex. Now, I'm not a massive fan of the Lex, but I cannot deny how good this weapon actually is. The Lex hits like a truck. You can see there it has 104 puncture damage, has a pretty good critical chance. And this thing is a single shot pistol, and it can just decimate enemies. Its recoil is very high. It's kind of like the 357 Magnum of Warframe in a way. If you can get the Lex Prime, that's also a really good version of it. It's more like a handheld sniper rifle. 50,000 credits, which you can farm that up pretty quick, and this is a good choice right here. So if you don't already have something crafted, as I said, I'm probably going to go with the Furus because I already have it crafted. This is pretty much what I would suggest. Farm up to 50,000 credits, buy the Lex pistol because this thing can take enemies down. It has one-shot potential, and this is even a weapon you could put a couple forma on and use later in the game if you can't get your hands on a Lex Prime. So very good weapon here. Definitely something worth checking out if you're on the free-to-play account. Magnus is a pretty good pistol too, but we can't build that until we get Auric and Cells, so we're still a little far out for that. The Merlock is one of the better weapons. You can see Mastery Rank 5, but we can actually earn a better version through our Syndicate and also get a blueprint through the Clan. Mark 1 Furus and Kunai, we already have those. Those are Mastery Rank fodder weapons. The Sicarus is not a terrible option either for 20,000. This is kind of like the RoboCop gun. It shoots 3-round burst. It's a burst fire pistol. And it's not amazing, but it's not terrible. It's well-rounded, and it can serve you well through the first couple of planets beyond what we're playing initially. And it's much cheaper. It's 20,000 credits. You buy it, it's already ready to go. So that's definitely an option for you. I would suggest taking the Lex over that, though, just to kind of give you a heads up on that. The Sonic Core is really good and really fun, but you can see we don't have anywhere near the amount of stuff needed to build it. So the rest of this, I would probably pass on. We could build the Vasto. The Vasto is not a bad weapon. 30,000 for the blueprint. And it's definitely an option to consider. Crit chance, though, is not like... Just when you look at something like this, you're looking at the crafting cost and the time it would take. When you could just buy the Lex for 50,000 credits at this stage of the game, that's one of the reasons I would just, would skip this. Although the Vasto is it's an okay pistol. The Viper is kind of useless. So the fire rate on this thing is so fast it just kind of runs through. It's like a rapid fire BB gun, and we don't have the nanospores to craft it either. So if you're looking at the market, I'm going to say if you don't want to use, like if you've got the Furus already like I do crafted and you don't want to use that, the Lex is going to be your best option here for the 50,000 credits because it's so easy to farm and you get it right away, and it's such a powerful weapon that can take you really far in the star chart. So either the Lex or the Sicarus here if you're going to go the credit route. If you're going to go the crafting route, you've got some other options there that we went through, but that's going to be all the secondary weapons. And let's go into one more. We have the melee weapons. That's going to be, like I said, our choices are kind of limited with melee right now because we have the Skana, which is already pretty solid. And we can farm another weapon off of Captain Vor. But there's also something we're going to look at here. You can see you can't get a blueprint for that. The Amphis is not really that great, but we could build it if we wanted to, just for kind of something fun to have. No blueprint for that. So I'm just going to go through here real quick, and I want to show you something. This is the normal bow, not the Mark I bow, and we could actually build this once we get an Auric and Cell. One of the kind of interesting things about the melee weapons is as you go through the game, there are some melee weapons that you can build only if you've used a prior version of them. So with the bow, I'm trying to remember which weapon it is. If I come down here, you have, I think it's the Thibodeau maybe. Here we go. So the Thibodeau, you actually need the bow and the kunai to build it. So you can buy both of those, make those weapons fairly easily, and then level those up to level 30, and then you can pick up the Thibodeau blueprint. You craft the Thibodeau, and then you can actually use the Thibodeau to build, I believe it's the Legion. Yeah, you see there you need the Thibodeau to build this. You need some plastids and some nanospores. The Legion is a really, really good melee weapon. You see it's mastery rank 7. It has a pretty good status chance at 30%. And is mainly slash damage. Two things that are really, really good for the game. So definitely something you want to consider there when you're picking your melee weapon is, can you use it later on in the game to build something better? So the bow is definitely something you might want to take a look at. As I said, we need an Auric and Cell, so we would have to wait on that one. The Skana, we can use the Skana for now. It's not going to be something where we really are going to suffer too much for it. And you can see again here, in order to make this, you have to use a Boltor and the Cronin, so it's a pretty high crafting cost right there. Dual swords are pretty good. Dual comments are okay. The dual Skana is pretty interesting here, but I think we could actually build this. That'd be kind of cool. Very cheap crafting cost. These would be fun. Dual swords are really fun to use, especially if you get the right stance mod. You've got the Reaper, the Dual Zorn. These are also a very good weapon. Dual axes, we could build these, which is good. Fairly low crafting cost there. The Fragor, like I said, we will get a blueprint for this right away. Actually, once we get through, I believe, Earth on the other junction going to Mars. That's going to be another option we have there. You have the Galatine, which is a massive sword, and this is a really good weapon for Excalibur, considering he gets the melee bonus with swords. And considering it's only 4 galleon, which we could easily farm on Mars, this is a weapon we're going to be looking at later on, for sure. We'll probably get this once we clear Mars and can farm up some gallium. That's a really easy weapon to craft here, and you can see the slash damage, 118, pretty good status chance of 20%. With the right mods, this thing will absolutely wreck face in this game, so something you definitely want to consider there. Trying to see if there's anything else that really catches my eye here, but I think for the most part the Orthos is pretty good, and we could build the Orthos. That's a good weapon to go for. Going through, so we have a couple different options here, guys. What I would suggest for you, if you're not in a clan, is building the dual Skana or the Orthos. Those are both two good choices. And then later on, we're going to look at getting the Galatine as well. Or if you want, you can just wait to get the Fragor. You can use the Skana. For now, Excalibur is a little bit more built towards using swords. So that's one of the reasons the bow weapons are not great for him. That's one of the reasons we want to focus on the Galatine later. But for right now, it doesn't really matter. We're not at the point where we're modded well enough to really take advantage of his abilities. And the bigger weapons are kind of a good crowd clearing option. So I'm actually going to go with the Orthos. And it's 20,000 credits. We can start building this right away. I'm going to go ahead and pick that up. And we can go to the foundry right away and start crafting that. So now we've pretty much got a full set of weapons to use. Once we have everything to rank 30. Come down here, we'll go ahead and craft the Orthos. Now if you're just playing the game, generally going along, you should have most of these crafting components for these items that I'm going through. So that's one of the reasons I said it's so important to go through and grab all those item lockers and get all the loot you can when you're in each mission. Now there's one more option we have for these weapons, and that's going to be your clan. If you're in a clan, I'm in a very small clan. Oh, there's only 3 of us in this clan, so it's fairly easy to unlock a lot of stuff. But if you're in a clan, hopefully they've been working on their, their clan base, and hopefully they've actually, farmed up some items and crafted a lot of things and made things available. So we're going to start with our Tenno lab. We're going to go in here and see what we have. Now, anything that has the little symbol up here is something that has already been researched. It is something that we can actually replicate a blueprint for. And that's one of the reasons we already have the axe stilettos, because you can only get that through your clan in terms of the blueprint if you don't want to spend platinum. These are a good weapon. Like I've said, we're going to use these to build the axe samadhi, so we're definitely going to craft these at some point. But you can see here there are some primary and melee weapons and some other things here that you can definitely take a look at. If you hit replicate, it'll show you the mastery rank you need to build each of these, and also the requirements for each of them. So these are going to be, some of these are going to be a little bit tougher to build at this point, because we aren't going to have the required items. But it's worth taking a look through here. You can see here the Attica. You can actually get that for 15,000, and it's pretty easy to build. You just need a forma. But just in general, this is a spot you probably want to check before you make your purchase, to see if there's something you can easily craft here. You see, you can also make warframes here. We'll take a look at that a bit more in detail later on. You've got other items like the Tonbo, which you don't have enough plastids for, but that's something you could easily farm once we get to Phobos. So just some other interesting ideas here, and a place to check for sure before you actually just make your decision on what you want to use going forward. So real quick, I'm going to run over to the other side of our base, and I think we have one of our labs finished here. Yes, we do. The chem lab. You can get depending on what rooms your clan has, there's going to be all kinds of these little labs where there are weapons available. You can see here we've got the Merlock research completed, which again, this is a really good weapon. We don't have the crafting materials for it though, or the mastery rank. The Ignis is kind of a fun little flamethrower, and again, we don't have the stuff to build it yet. So not really anything here we're going to be able to use, but I just did kind of want to show you guys that so you could see that it's also an option, and it's one of the reasons you do want to join a clan, is because it will give you the option to actually have a little bit more choice when you're going through picking up some of those weapons. But that's what we're going to do for now. I'm going to go with the Boltor as my primary, despite some of the other options we went through. Like I said, the Bratton is also a very good choice for credits. That's pretty easy to use. It's going to be nice to finally say goodbye to the Mark I Bratton. We're not going to get rid of the Bratton right now. We are going to sell it later. For right now, I'm going to hang on to it because you do want to have a weapon that has some mod capacity in it, since we haven't been able to get any formas yet. If in case we run across a tougher mission where we need more mods in our weapon, we'll be able to switch back to the Mark I and do that for right now. So it's always good to have a fully leveled up weapon in your arsenal, just in case while you're leveling up another weapon you run across a difficult mission or something. For right now, again, we're going to hang on to the Skana, and then once we get the Mark I Kunai leveled up to 30, we are going to swap that out for the Ferris. So those are going to be my choices. Like I said, you guys are definitely, if you want to go look through and see what's available for you. As I said, for your secondary choice, the Lex is going to be a really, really powerful option. If you like the single shot pistol, definitely worth taking a look at. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Went on a little bit longer than I thought it would. I tried to go a little bit more in depth for some of you newer players, so you can kind of get an idea of the thought process going through. You really do have to do a little bit of planning in Warframe, especially if you're on a free-to-play account. That's why it's so important to go through that Syndicate part and everything else, just to kind of give you guys some insight on what goes through my mind when I'm playing the game. Especially on free-to-play, as we have to be very careful, since our resources are a little bit more limited than those that are using Platinum to acquire items more quickly. As always, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're finding this series helpful, especially if you're a new player for Warframe. Hope you guys are having a great day. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I will see you again next time.